Hello, everyone. We are here. We being the water thief and her victim.
Caught me already. All right.
You couldn't go 5 seconds without leaving my water alone.
You literally you picked it up. You said, "I'm gonna go get water," and I said, "I'm probably gonna share it with you."
Probably doesn't mean that you have to do it.
Well, I just finished a slice of pecan pie.
And whose fault is that?
You could have eaten some too.
No, pecan pie is disgusting. No, thank you.
You guys, see what I have to put up with. Okay, reviews. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. Abercrombie.
Abercrombie?
Abercrombie. I keep wanting to read that as some kind of play on Abercrombie. Sorry. LMFAO. No, Mataris. I'm begging you, break this accursed fourth wall and let me at him. Let me at him. Oh Lord, I am going to kick this guy's ass. Well done, Ochako, I guess. Okay, all right. Somebody's silly. All right.
Somebody was feeling silly when they wrote this
All
review.
right. Well, thank you.
I think she was saying she wants to get through the fourth wall and take me out because of the cliffhanger that I left him on last time. And I was kind of mocking people for it. I don't know. Maybe that wasn't the best part of my move. Maybe that wasn't the best move on my part, but
This is a new reader, right?
no, that's Samira.
Oh, it's Amira. Okay. Hey, Amira. All right. Sorry, I shouldn't. Okay. Sorry, I should keep the handle, not the name.
I mean,
My
that's
bad.
the handle she started out with, so
Okay.
I don't
Alright.
think that's a problem.
Cool.
Chaos
Alright.
Control 85 is a new regular.
Cool.
This dude he left reviews like every 5 chapters or something.
Nice.
Yeah. I was tempted to like include all of them in this video. I'm just like, nah, this is gonna drag.
lot.
It's gonna drag way too long. So
No worries.
Yeah.
Glad to have you. Better late than never. All right, Chaos Control 85. I wonder how bad Lariat is going to break Deku's mind after witnessing what had been done to blank his mind. Pain be damned.
do you know who Lariat is?
No, I don't.
He's the 5th user. Lariat was the hero name of the 5th user. The guy with Blackwhip.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
I wonder if Monoma is going to slip up in his crazed energon state about being the school traitor, or at least one of them.
No. As far as I know, Monoma's not a traitor.
Yeah, we may be behind on the times.
No,
there.
because of the nature of his character and like how it plays into the story. Like I've kind of kept an ear to the ground for like any of that kind of development because like I was like I doubt he's the traitor, but if he is, so like I've kept my eye out for that. No, he's not.
Okay.
As far as I know, he's not the traitor.
Also, worried about how this would affect Aries' training depending on what happens with Monoma, as I doubt Aizawa would try to let him copy her quirk to help train her. And looking even further ahead, I wonder how much it's going to affect the final battle. Monoma and Shinzo were keys to starting it all, and Monoma has definitely shoved his pride and rivalry aside enough to help out as much as possible in canon without giving away too much. So I definitely wonder how drastically everything is going to be, different at the end.
I have taken that into account, and I have a plan. That's all. That's all I'll say for that.
All right. Awesome story so far, and can't wait for the next chapter.
Well, I'm glad you like the story, man. And welcome to Your Hero Academia.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you. Let's see. All right, so this one's silver. So
All right, I'm going to eat my pie.
all right, go for it. Silver 4700 says, a really good chapter, I must say. The beginning section with Kurai's flashback was really well written and interesting to read. Reminded me of one of the beginning sections of the book Ender's Game, if you've read it.
Oh, yes.
Becca's read it. I haven't, but
Love
I
that
kind of have an idea of what you're talking
Orson
about.
Scott Card is one of those weird authors who writes amazing first books,
And then
the sequels just get really weird and hard to follow. Because, like, same thing. Like, I love Ender's Game. Speaker for the Dead is freaking weird, and then it just keeps weirder from there. And then you have, like, Pathfinder, which is fantastic. And I'm afraid to read the sequels because all my friends who've read them have said that they were the same thing as Ender's Game, where it gets weird. So I don't know. Sorry. I'm like, I love Orson Scott Card's first books. But yes, I totally get that. Sorry for the...
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. So Becca's read it. I haven't. Let's see. Great book. I'm probably gonna catch some flack for this, but I genuinely enjoyed the movie. Maybe that's because I haven't read the book.
Yeah,
but,
it's because you haven't read the book.
I mean, You said that the battle simulations were really good.
Yeah, it was.
Really good
There
part.
were some strong points of the movie, and to be fair, I haven't watched it in a while. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's not horrible, and I love that. I think I was just really happy that Harrison Ford was in it, just because I'm a nerd. And I feel like it was cast okay, but it was just very.
I thought the kid that they got for Ender did a really good job.
It was just very Hollywood.
Okay.
It was very Hollywood. I don't know how to say it better.
Okay.
The book was phenomenal, though.
All right. Sorry. Moving on. Great book. Basically, the main character of Ender confronts his bullies and beats the main bully to death, saying he was winning that battle and all future battles. Seriously, he beat the kid to his death. Yeah, I did know that. Like the in the opening scene, like with him at the school, like he beats the stuffing out of the kid, but they don't actually like confirm whether or not the kid died.
It happens again though later.
Well, yeah. Then he fights Bonzo, and in the book Bonzo dies, but in the movie they're like, yeah, he's never gonna walk again. Let's see. Guy died from his injuries unknown to Ender. Okay, yeah. So Ender didn't find out about that until later, I guess.
Yeah.
Or did he just never find out?
I think he's smart enough that he figured it out. It's been a while since I've read it, but yeah, I probably shouldn't. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
No, it's fine.
I have my mouth full.
Overall, the fight you've shown us between Team Monoma and Team Kurai is really fun to read. Love Monoma's interactions, especially the little crap he is. Also, got to give a bit of constructive criticism regarding this chapter. I mentioned that I love the flashback scene, but, well, it felt that it didn't really fit with this chapter. Mainly in the sense that the flashback towards Kurai got literally deathly serious whenever anyone talked bad about his family. We then see Monoma start to go down that road, and Kurai is tensing it up, but then Izuku's the one who's triggered, and Blackwhip is set off. Overall, that scene itself is good in execution. I mean, it shows how much Izuku cares for Kurai and gives a reason to unlock Blackwhip, but from a technical standpoint, this almost seems to go against the idea of Chekhov's gun. We see why Kurai would get really angry through a flashback, but then he doesn't get angry, Izuku does. My defense for that is I had the word and then I lost it. Not subset, subverting expectations. I was trying to set you guys. Basically, your reaction kind of gives me the idea that I got the reaction out of you guys that I wanted. I wanted you guys to think that Kurai was going to be the one to blow up again. But then we see someone else. We see someone else get angry on his behalf, and one of there's also a parallel to the scene is that both times Kurai had people that cared about him. They were standing with him, but there was a difference in what they could do about it. Shuken was not in a place where he could, help his cousin. His cousin came to his defense, but he just wasn't in a place where he could help him.
For me,
and Akadori was 4 years old, so he can roast the living daylights out of somebody, but he's not gonna be able to punch them.
For me, reading this, I thought that it just came to remind the reader how far he's come in character development. Because we've known all this time that there was a time when he lost control. And we finally got to see that. And that's not to say that he's going to lose control again, but it's to say this is where he's coming from. And this is the experience he's had. And this is why he knows he has self-control. Because this whole time that he's been having issues with Monoma, everyone's been like, oh my gosh, why are you just not reacting? Why are you not reacting? Oh my gosh.
This is why.
This is why. You're finally getting the explanation of this is his experience. He knows how bad it can get if he loses control. And that's why he's not losing control.
He almost killed someone 8 years ago. And he's gotten infinitely more powerful since then. So
for me, it actually brought a little, because Joe didn't even really talk to me about writing this scene. I think this one was one of the ones that was just 100% him. And I genuinely, as the audience thought, oh, wow, okay, yeah, so this is the experience he has, because it's been very weird and no one has understood his behavior toward Monoma. And even though it hurts, all of the bullying, he's just taken it. And it's very weird and hard to understand until you see his experience. and the way he's, you're seeing the world through his eyes finally at this crucial moment. Meanwhile, Deku, who is just insanely protective of his friends, is going to have his freak out. And and I to me it made sense. I know, I guess the way you explained it, I could see why it's kind of setting you up to be like, oh, okay, well, why is it his flashback when it's Deku who's having the struggle right now? Well, we know Deku struggles. We've seen his flashbacks. We know how passionate he is about defending
and why he's
people.
that passionate.
Yeah. So it's like, for him, it makes sense. But the one who's been kind of confusing, and my words are not coming out great today either.
The one whose motivation is a little obscured.
There we go. That's our main character here.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, sorry, keep going.
No, that was good. Let's see. He doesn't get angry. Izuku does. Granted, I don't know how the battle ends or what's going to happen in the next chapter, but it just seemed weird to place the flashback here. Just my own 2 cents, but still a great chapter. No, I welcome the criticism. It's a good thought to put forward. Let's see. This is where I would normally put in an SAO abridged reference, but I actually found a different abridged reference that fits here. See if you can recognize it. Let's see. Monoma. I don't give a crap. I don't give a darn. Big old acid snipe. The crap was that? Mina. Hello, my name is Mina Ashido, hero in training and member of the Lightning Drop organization. I answer the door, I clean up the estate, and I take out the trash, and I also kill self-entitled little people like yourself. Monoma. Well, ain't you just the textbook freaking definition of classy? But guess what, Jeeves? Snaps fingers and teammates come out. That acid won't do crap against heroes this good. What's that, Alfred? How good are we? Well, half as good as my quirk, so you think you need a freaking anti-tank rifle to pierce us, and I don't see a piece on your wrinkly old self. Mina. Ochako Izuku, if you may. Ochako lifts a building with her quirk, with Izuku about to rocket it with his punch. Women love cannons. Izuku launches the building towards them that they're barely able to avoid. Monoma. Oh crap, that's an anti-tank rifle move. Oh crap, that's an anti-tank rifle move! Hope you and Becca have a wonderful day. Yeah, that's Hellsing Ultimate Abridged.
I was like,
it's a little bit of a stretch, but I'm laughing.
What on earth was going on there? Okay. Sorry, you guys know. Most of the abridged references,
I feel like the only ones that you remember are the My Hero abridged.
Well, those are the funny ones to me. The other ones are just not that funny to me.
This is what I get for believing in myself. Death.
Thank you, Silver.
Silver, thank you for your review. Always fun.
All right. Light Hero Kaiser. Most interesting, great chapter, mate. Can't wait for more. Kaito sees the preview. What is that, and why you had the Dark Blade and your little project above the battlefield? Sees the preview. Wait. Oh, sorry. I can't read this. Light, whistling and looking away. I have no idea what you mean. Smirks. Kaito, okay, we both know that is BS. You have been waiting for this for ages, haven't you? Light, oh, hell yeah. Get ready for impact. Get ready, impact. Kaito, on it, Blade Hero.
What are you gonna drop on my chapter, dude?
Kaito, on it, Blade Hero. This is Blade Hero Light, and now Hero Impact signing out. Sorry, I hope I read that correctly. My dyslexia is hella bad because it's super late. This one kept procrastinating and doing things before we could record today.
What are you throwing me under the bus for?
Man, I was ready. I got home, we put the kids down, I was ready, and now my brain is mush. Sorry.
This is where the fun begins.
I'm gonna go use my inhaler. You can respond to that.
All right. So let's see. So the next one is Joe Clone. No actual one-on-one, but this was so hype. Ironically, I thought she should kiss Deku in the show rather than call Shinzo to brainwash him. Speaking of, that was a brilliant use of Giving Heart. Well, thank you for that. I feel like about half of us had that thought that she should kiss him in order to bring Blackwhip under control. But it wouldn't be a shonen show unless, like, the hero and the heroine never kiss, or, they don't kiss until, like, the very, very end. Which...
I genuinely forgot that they didn't. So I have this problem, you guys, where I get Joe's canon mixed up with the original canon for things all of the time. Like, sword art that genuinely, there's some things I can't remember whether it was Joe's material. Or same thing happens with my hero all the time. So don't ask me, man.
Oh, man. I wanted to kind of take a look at what these three of them would look like if they had been given like a proportionate power boost with Giving Heart. Now I remember what I forgot last time. I remember the drawback for Giving Heart is that he can't just give his power to anybody. It has to be something that basically he trusts with his life. Like he can't just hand out a power boost willy-nilly.
Okay.
It has to be somebody that he has a deep connection with.
Okay, that also explains why my theory about the thing we're talking about didn't work. Okay, sorry. Random. Got it. Joe was like telling me about something he had planned in the future, and I had a hunch, and I was totally wrong, and that is why. Because you can. Okay, got it.
I don't know why I forgot that, but let's see. Joe Clone goes on to say, so Monoma's reasoning isn't as childish as I thought. He really blames Kurai for being the traitor. We all know who it is now, but I guess he's too stubborn and insane to think rationally. Definitely going to cost him hero points. I mean, yeah, if you're up to date on the manga, you know who the traitor is, but nobody in UA knows who it is yet. But yeah, I wanted, like, how do I put this? Like, I wanted Monoma's, like, I wanted his attitude to be worse in this version, but I couldn't just do it just for the sake of it. I needed to give him a reason. And this, for me, seemed to fit his personality the best, is that he thinks Kurai is the one that's been kind of pulling the strings and putting them in the line of fire all the time.
Well, we all know he's the quirky Draco Malfoy of the show.
This is true. This is also true. Let's see. The action was very well done, and it was cool to imagine watching it on the TV. Can't wait for the next one. Well, thank you for your review, man. Yeah, I wish
you're getting better at making your fights cinematic. Look at you.
Yeah, I wish I had the budget to animate this kind of thing. Are you kidding me? I would love that, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
You never know.
I can try.
All right, Silly Kita, review number 450.
That's why I knew we had hit 450 reviews.
Nice. I love
That's nuts. Sorry, I don't have like a milestone gift for you guys or anything, and now I feel kind of double bad because I just realized we hit 250 subscribers on the channel too.
Oh damn.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh no, I don't have anything.
Yeah. Oh well, it's fine. You have 20 million projects you're working on right now, so you're fine.
Yeah.
All right. I'm amazed we have that many subscribers with all the rambling we do. Okay.
That's the fun part.
Great chapter. Well and truly, I loved it all. Currently laughing my head off because of that last scene. That was perfect. Their first kiss had to involve something wacky. They're in this place where they like each other a lot, but their main focus is on becoming heroes. So a moment like this was probably the only way for the kiss to even happen.
Probably.
I mean, yeah, I think that's what everyone was thinking. I was expecting her to kiss him, and again, genuinely, I forgot that she didn't because of this story. Also, please tell me honey, you're going to have to read it. My dyslexia is so bad today. I'm going to let you take it.
All right. Let's see. Also, please tell me that at least one of the vestiges has something to say about it. We'll see. Eat shit, Monoma. I kind of feel bad for his teammates just being caught in the crossfire, but the moment is nearly upon us. Team Lightning Drop really gets to kick it into high gear against the Phantom Thief, and they did not disappoint. If this were any other writer, I would say that the other members of the team are acting out of character, but you have more than appropriately built up the antagonism to this particular boiling point. Monoma has not only been hostile toward their class in general, but he's taken things way too far against Kurai, and we've seen Deku freak out on Monoma for similar reasons in the canon. Okay, so yeah, that kind of just goes back to what you were saying earlier. Mm-hmm. Uravity lifting an entire building for her boyfriend to chuck it was equally parts terrifying and hilarious. Like, if that's just a small portion of the strength the Giving Heart can give her, what would she be capable of if she got a full dose of Energon? That's
a moment I could just see playing out when they're like seasoned heroes working together as adults. Thank you.
Well, like her picking up a city block.
Yeah, just
picking up just bench pressing a mountain range.
Here you go, sweetie. Right.
I may have to incorporate that at some point. Let's see. Yeah, I had fun with that. Let's see. Maybe it's because I didn't expect her to go as hardcore with the destruction as I did Mina, but something about her carriage in this chapter took me by surprise. Not in a way that seemed out of character or to my disliking, but something that I definitely did not expect. Well, I mean, if I gave you guys everything that you were expecting, that wouldn't be much fun, now would it? Okay, the 4v1 between Kai and the Class B students was entertaining, but come on. He almost defeated 23 of his own peers in combat, so his victory was all but guaranteed there. Not ragging on it was an entertaining scene, I just found it to be a tad predictable. Right up until Blackwhip spaz and the rest of the thing happened. Do it again, that was hilarious. Normally I'd be at least a little peeved about being left on another cliffhanger, but the note it left us on was good enough that I honestly don't mind it this time. Also, the preview inclines me to think that we are about to get a good look at old Energon versus new. Kai versus Phantom Thief, let's go! So yeah, right. I think they might be a little bit excited about this.
Yeah, alright. Well, that being said, let's go.
Alright, we'll catch you guys in a little bit. We'll be back for behind the scenes.
From the moment I reached the other side, I could not hide from the great divide. I can't turn back time, and my soul was mine. Get back what I lost, no matter the cost. Is there no way home? Is there no way home?
Truth. The kiss had the immediate desired effect on Izuku. His brain froze completely as he struggled in vain to understand exactly what was happening to him. One second, his quirk had been lashing out of control, and the next, he was having his first kiss in the middle of a fight, probably well within the view of all of his classmates. It all proved to be too much for the poor boy, and his brain shorted out, leaving him a stunned mess on the ground while Ochako pulled back, her face doing an excellent impression of a tomato. The black tendrils all withdrew into Izuku's body without further damage, for which Kurai breathed a silent thanks. I can hardly believe that worked, he thought as he landed amid the rubble of the battlefield, using a large boulder to support himself while he caught his breath. Basic instinct wasn't exhausting enough on its own, but being nearly strangled by Izuku's new power had also served to wear him out. It wouldn't be long before he was ready to go again, but for now he hoped their opponents wouldn't be eager to resume the fight. Unfortunately, he was not going to get that wish. Almost before he could take in a brief survey of his surroundings, he found himself under fire from large pieces of debris, courtesy of Yanagi, Kodai, and Shota's quirks. "Ah, come on!" he shouted as he retaliated with blasts of light. "You called a ceasefire to get Midoriya under control, but we're still trying to win this," Shota called out. "Sorry, but even our courtesy only goes so far." "Yeah, that tracks," Kodai grumbled, though he was relieved to see Mina's acid intercepting the projectiles raining down on him as she skated closer. "Ah, thanks," he called as she slid to be back-to-back with him. "Couldn't let you be the trouble magnet all by yourself again," she grinned over her shoulder. "What's the plan?" "For now, take cover," her boyfriend answered as he unleashed a large blast of light that blocked him from being seen, followed by pulling her behind a pile of rubble that had once been a water tower and some other structure, he wasn't sure. "Did Ochako get Izuku out of the battle area?" "Yeah, I told her to take him and run because I figured you'd do something kinda nuts if they started fighting again." She nodded as they lay back against the debris, their eyes on the watch for any flying pieces of rock. "She's headed southwest in the opposite direction of these guys." "Perfect," Kodai muttered. "Let's go with acid rain, see if we can't flush them out into the open." "You got it." Together they got to their feet and hurled their powers skywards, away from themselves, forcing the two projectiles to collide and explode over the general area that they believed their opponents to be in, sending countless little droplets of gray liquid raining down. Mina made sure to make the acid a mere irritant that would only cause light chemical burns, as she didn't want to accidentally put a bunch of holes in their opponents. Their efforts were rewarded by several shouts of surprise and frustration as the stinging rain found its mark, followed by 4 figures racing in different directions as they tried to escape the sudden downpour. Seeing that 2 of the figures were escaping in roughly the same direction, Mina said to Kurai, "Throw me at Yanagi and Shota." Kurai didn't waste time on asking what she had in mind. If Mina believed she could take the 2 on, he would trust that this was the case. So he grabbed her by the arm and the scruff of her jacket and used his augmented strength to hurl her in the direction that she desired. Had he been able to watch her after making the throw, he would have seen one of the most impressive takedowns in their class's history. She spun herself in midair so that her foot connected with Shota's head as she went flying, instantly knocking him out before anyone even knew she was there. Almost before she took down the gray-haired boy, she hurled a glob of acid in Yanagi's face, which caused her to instinctively protect her head with her arms and distracting her from using her quirk. She let out a cry of pain as blisters immediately broke out on her skin, and she stumbled backward, once again falling victim to her body's base instincts to protect herself from further harm, and providing Mina with the time that she needed to get her feet under her and shoot back toward the other girl, having gone past her during the initial surprise attack. She was so fast that by the time Yanagi realized her mistake and was lowering her arms to give herself a clear line of sight,
Mina's fist had connected with her jaw, sending her rolling with a small grunt. When she came to a stop on the ground, she was insensate, and Mina was grinning to herself. There was a sound of rubble being broken behind her that caused her to turn her head, but when she did, she was able to widen her smile with relief. Izuku and Ochako had arrived to take care of Kurai, who had witnessed Mina's lightning-fast takedowns and had been trying to get in a surprise attack, only to be ambushed herself by Class 1A's other power couple. Izuku managed to regain a sense of what was going on around him by the time Ochako had gotten into a safe hiding space, and in spite of her assurances that it was okay if he needed to sit the rest of the match out, he insisted on going back to help their friends so that they would not have to suffer for his lack of control. So he had his girlfriend make him float above the battlefield, just in time to witness Kurai and Mina's acid rain attack, after which he used a reverse New Hampshire smash to send himself flying after Kodai, who had been too distracted to notice his approach. His foot connected with her back between the shoulder blades, planting her firmly in a smaller pile of rocks, after which Ochako was then able to use her quirk to make the three students float. "Nice job, Mina," she said with a grin as they finished gathering up the unconscious opponents. "Your timing on that attack was awesome." "I wish I had that kind of reaction time," Izuku admitted as he dragged Kodai along behind him. His nose was still bloody, but it didn't seem as though it was completely broken. "Please, go on," Mina grinned as she gave a small bow. "I enjoy praise." Allowing her face to grow more serious, she added, "Are you okay, Izuku? What happened back there?" Izuku looked around them before he answered, "I'll explain more later, but I should be okay for the moment. Right now, I'm worried about Kurai. Where did he go?" The question led the girls to look around with frowns as Mina said, "Last I saw, he was still catching his breath behind those rocks over there, but I feel like he would have come out by now if he was still around." "Monoma's missing too," Ochako said, sounding worried. "Do you think he went after Kurai while we were busy with his teammates?" As if in response to her question, a pillar of light suddenly rocketed toward the heavens about a kilometer from where they stood. Seeing it, Mina paled and said, "Ochako, get these guys to the prison. Izuku, I need you to come with me." "You think something's happened? Kurai wouldn't waste that much power showing off even to attack Monoma," she said as she broke into a run, Izuku following her close behind. "The only reason so much power could be released like that is if Monoma copied Energon 2 minutes earlier. Kurai had chosen to run the moment he had seen Monoma coming at him from above. The boy was using Yanagi's power to control 2 pieces of stone beneath his feet so that he was more or less skating on the air itself, granting him speed faster than a person could run. Kurai knew that the crazed student would be aiming to copy his quirk, and on the off chance that he did manage it, he needed to be far away from the others before it happened. As it turned out, his precaution was well founded. Monoma managed to use Twin Impact to send pieces of rubble flying every which way, forcing Kurai to dodge as best as he could, but without the time to concentrate on the Muladhara chakra, he couldn't activate Basic Instinct in order to avoid all the projectiles. Eventually, he slipped up and got slammed with a boulder that drove the wind out of his lungs before he was able to throw an elbow and shatter the rock so that it didn't flatten him against the ground. Fixing a hard look on the blonde boy after he had stopped moving, he said in a flat voice, "If I'm not mistaken, you copied my quirk a few minutes ago before Izuku could get to us. If that is the case, be very careful about using it. Energon could kill you if you don't know what you're doing with it." "Huh, you expect me to believe that?" Monoma snorted derisively. "Sure, your quirk may have been dangerous at the beginning of the year, but ever since the summer camp, it's been known that your brother did something to your quirk to make it safe for you to use. And that means..." Kurai then had the intriguing experience of watching his power manifest in someone else as the air around Monoma exploded with orange energy, shooting up into the sky in a monstrous display of force. He frowned when he noticed a particular detail, however. That being, Monoma had orange hair and blue eyes, same as he once did whenever he unleashed his full potential. That's a problem. "How does it feel, traitor?" Monoma cackled from within the raging storm of light. "How does it feel to be at the mercy of the power you use so cavalierly against others?" He swiped his hand in front of his body, and 50 orange bolts of energy filled the air before flying at Kurai, who simply gave an irritated scowl. Mimicking Monoma's action, he slapped aside the bolts of energy with his metal hand, sending the ones that would have hit his body off to the side so that they exploded against buildings and rubble alike. "You're using the phrase 'at the mercy' pretty liberally," Kurai answered, his eyes studying Monoma's face closely, waiting for certain signs to manifest that he knew to be inevitable. "See, you may have my power, but you have none of the skills and effort that went into mastering it. Just like every other power that you copy. Your own ability may sound impressive enough, but you lack the wherewithal to make it anything more than mediocre. Even with my quirk, you're not a threat. You're a nuisance." "At least I aim to do something worthwhile with my power," Monoma roared back, the energy swirling around him in a harsh, discordant manner as he began to charge a large ball of energy in front of his hands. "Even if I'll never be what others consider a protagonist in the story of heroes, I will still aim to do what I can for society. That's more than you can say." Before Kurai could deliver a retort, Monoma unleashed the power on a massive beam that he was forced to counter, firing a yellow laser to slow the progress of the orange, though it didn't seem that he could fully stop it as he was. I guess I forgot how much power I used to be able to release in one go, he thought as he strove to hold out long enough for Monoma to either wear himself out or abandon the direct assault. Meanwhile, Monoma was continuing to rant against his enemy, saying, "All this power and it goes to a cretin like you. You didn't do anything to deserve this quirk. You got lucky and that's all there is to it." He strained harder, trying to overwhelm Kurai even faster, but he wasn't about to be beaten down after coming so far. "Anyone but you should have been born with this power. Someone like you could never make the best use of it." "You done?" Kurai asked right before the orange laser rushed forward and caused yet another devastating explosion that shattered the already ruined landscape. Monoma let out a high-pitched series of laughs as the dust began to settle, revealing nothing but a smoldering crater where Kurai had been standing. "Not so big now, are you?" He cackled even as the energy that his body was emitting continued to burst from every pore. He was sure that Kurai was still somewhere close by, but there was no way that he had escaped that blast unscathed. "So much for standing up against anything that comes at you. Your quirk is the only thing you have going for you, Kai. Without that, you're nothing. Are you done?" Monoma whirled around with a punch that was aimed to connect with Kurai's head, only to have his opponent catch the fist barehanded and hold him in place without batting an eye. The Guardian hero was wearing a very disconcerting smile as he peered at his enemy with bright orange eyes from beneath a messy set of hair that matched. Before things could be taken any further, the power that Monoma had conjured up suddenly fizzled out and left him with a searing headache. "What?" he said as he looked down at his body with no small amount of confusion. "It was a blank after all?" At this, Kurai tilted his head at his opponent, the same way that young boys look at a fascinating new insect that they've discovered in their backyard. "If you're quite done, I'd like to take the moment to say thank you, Monoma." The statement was so unexpected that it caused his enemy to snap out of his glassy-eyed state and fix his eyes back on Kurai. "Thank you," he repeated, unsure if the sudden nauseating headache was responsible for his ears malfunctioning. "What would you ever thank me for? You hate me." "Pretty sure you hate me more than I actually even care about your opinion, but then that's the point," Kurai replied as the pressure on his opponent's hand began to increase, causing Monoma to redouble his efforts in trying to pull away to no avail. "See, you're not the first person to tell me that my only redeeming quality is my quirk, a power that anyone else but me should have been lucky enough to have. You're not the first person to tell me that Energon is all but worthless in my hands." His grin widened as he added, "Just like your quirk, you seem to be incapable of coming up with original attacks. All you can do is copy that which is already present." "What are you—" "In spite of everything that I've accomplished since coming to the UA, I often feel like I have a hard time believing the thought that I am more than my quirk allows me to be," Kurai explained as the joints in Monoma's hands began to pop. "I've often leveled myself with the same accusations that you've just laid out. So, having heard those same words from someone who contains nothing for me but an unreasoning hatred and resentment, I've come to realize one very simple thing." He paused, and the pressure crushing Monoma's hand instantly halted, though that did nothing to assuage the sense of worry that had begun to build up in the blonde boy's mind. The orange suddenly drained from Kurai's eyes and hair, leaving him with a scowl on the words, "That's a pack of lies I was ever a fool to believe in." Even as he said the words, he could detect a strange sensation near his Adam's apple, as if there had been something lodged in his throat that had finally come away and allowed the air to pass freely through his windpipe. Monoma swung his other fist at Kurai's jaw, only to have him release the first hand, knock the blow to the side before stepping forward and slamming his metal fist into his enemy's face, shattering his nose and knocking him out cold on the spot. Kurai nodded in satisfaction as he watched his enemy lie quietly on the broken ground with blood running down his face from his ruined nostrils. Even though the other boy wouldn't register his words in his current state, Kurai still decided to mutter, "By the way, you'll be lucky if your brain isn't bleeding. Akudori altered my body to better handle Energon. He didn't change the quirk itself." Silently, he added, "Maybe I shouldn't have broken his nose. Now I can't tell if the blood is from that or from an aneurysm." Monoma hadn't sustained the transformation for very long, but his physical constitution was weaker than Kurai's, even when he had started the semester. His body simply wasn't up to the task of handling such a powerful quirk, especially one with such a dangerous backlash. Even if he wasn't suffering from internal bleeding within his cranial tissue, he would need swift medical attention from Recovery Girl. I wonder if that's why he just fizzled out. He had to wonder. He said something about a blank. Maybe I should ask Kendo what that was about when this is over. A dark part of him, deep in the recesses of his mind, told him to take Monoma to the containment cell with the other students, and wait for the nurse's droids to arrive, just like anyone else would have to. After all, why should he care if his tormentor suffered permanent brain damage or even lived? Let him suffer like I've had to. The little voice whispered, "It's no less than what he deserves after everything that he's done to me." With a soft snort, he squashed the voice and sent up a series of energon blasts that exploded above the grounds in an SOS pattern derived from Morse code. Even as he lowered his hand, he noticed a movement from the corner of his eye, so he turned to see Mina and Izuku approaching him, both of them looking worried. "You okay?" his girlfriend asked as she moved to hug him firmly. "I actually feel pretty good," he grinned at her. "I just got a reminder that I ought to pay more attention to how my loved ones look at me than how I look at me." "Dude, what?" "That was unequivocally the worst performance I've ever seen from you, Hikari," Aizawa said flatly as the 4 students stood in front of him with stoic expressions on their faces. "You enabled unnecessary mass destruction through your teammates, and you added further devastation with your own efforts. Had this been a real situation, hundreds of civilians would more than likely be dead because you did not exercise a modicum of self-control. You took advantage of the fact that this was a training exercise to win." Fixing his dead gaze on Ochako and Izuku, he added, "This is a mistake the 2 of you made during the beginning of the year. Seeing it repeated here is very disappointing." "You want to talk about applying real-life stakes to this situation?" Kurai replied without flinching. "How about the part where I saved Monoma's life after he tried to put me in the hospital? Said student had been rushed to Recovery Girl by the robots that tended the field, having been urged to all possible speed by Kurai when he informed them it was possible for Monoma to be suffering from an aneurysm at the time." Aizawa swung his piercing gaze back to the boy who had spoken, whereupon he growled, "Monoma will be receiving his own lecture concerning his performance today, and the recklessness that he displayed. However, in the real world, his actions could be explained as a response to the threat that you and Midoriya posed to his team." "Okay, that thing with Izuku's quirk," Kurai started to say, then he paused and looked at his friend who shrugged helplessly. "Yeah, we don't know what the hell that was about." At this point, All Might stepped up and asked, "Do you think that your quirk did something beyond the intended effect to young Midoriya's power?" Obviously, he couldn't directly ask about One for All at that moment, but it was clear he was concerned about any adverse effects that it might have on his protege. "Giving heart can only enhance what's already inside of someone," Kurai answered with a negative shake of his head, glad to be able to move away from Aizawa's judgment, even if for a moment. "I can't manifest a new ability in someone else." "That power came from inside of me, that I know," Izuku said in defense of his friend. "I don't know what caused it to appear all of a sudden, but it didn't feel like the power that Kurai shared with me at the beginning of the match." Aizawa let out a long breath as he shared a look with All Might before closing his eyes and saying, "As I was saying before, I find myself disappointed in your team's performance during the exercise. You may have won the match, but if you ever expect to be real heroes, especially if you 4 want to form a hero team after graduating, you can never repeat those mistakes again." "Sir, with all due respect, you're acting like Kurai had no control over himself during the fight," Mina said, surprising her friends. No one in their right mind talked back to Aizawa, save for Kurai, and he had actually been through more than enough to justify it. If he had actually lost his temper, UA would have been blown off the map, not just a part of the training complex. "I failed to see how that should excuse the destruction that he did cause," Aizawa answered, his eyes sharpening as he leveled his gaze solely on Mina, who met his stare with a steely gaze of her own. "It doesn't," Kurai said as he held up his robotic hand to forestall any further protests from his girlfriend. "I engaged in a grudge match, and now we have a pretty good look at what that can lead to. But then again, All Might did the same thing in Camino against a guy who could take powers from others, and he retired as the #1 hero. With Monoma's capabilities, why shouldn't I have treated him like a villain every bit as dangerous I could be?" His gaze was unapologetic and unwavering as he delivered his counter-argument, so he missed the uncomfortable shuffling of All Might's feet as he looked down at the ground like a child being scolded by his parents. With an aggravated sigh, Aizawa said, "You win the match, but I expect a written essay of the subject of collateral damage bylaws that were reformed 20 years ago from each of you. It will be on my desk by Monday at the morning of the start of the class, or I'll have you on house arrest for 2 days to reflect on your stupidity." "Yes, sir," the 4 students said begrudgingly. To be fair, they had each expected a heavier punishment, but none of them were about to voice that out loud. Done with his lecture, Aizawa allowed Midnight to officially announce that Class A were the winners of the day's joint exercise. This was greeted by cheers from the victors and some scattered groans of disappointment from their rivals. This was soon ended when Ida and Yajirozu approached Kendo and Shoto with the offer to have a joint celebration with everyone's efforts in the A building, which the 2 class leaders gratefully accepted. As this was happening, Akabane from the general course approached Kurai's team and offered her hand in congratulations for their victory. "You guys were amazing," she said as she finished shaking hands with Izuku, who was then drawn away by All Might. "I see that I've got a long way to go before I can take a stand in the same ring as you guys, but I can't wait to get there." "Hey, blink and you'll miss it." Kurai grinned at her. Struck by a thought, he then asked, "Why don't you and the others join us for dinner?" Wait, would that be okay?" Akabane asked, her eyes widening in surprise. I kind of thought that, well, you're all in the hero course and we're not. That'll change in a few months, Kurai pointed out. Come on, it'll be fun, Mina encouraged her. You could totally pick Kurai's brain on ideas for hero costume designs. He's actually really good at that kind of stuff. You are? She's overselling it, Kurai said with a roll of his eyes. Allowing another grin to stretch his face, he added, but I'd be happy to help you. I owe your dad big time, so if I can play a part in helping you become a better hero, I'll take the chance. Don't feel like you owe me because of my dad, please. Akabane stuttered as she held up her hands in a slightly defensive gesture. I don't want to be a burden, you know? I wouldn't have offered if I couldn't do it, Kurai chuckled. Also, I wouldn't have said anything if I didn't want to do it. I'm happy to help you, Akabane. Well, thanks, Hikari, she said with a grateful smile. She noticed that her classmates were waving her over, so she said, I'll see you guys in a little bit. Oh, and thanks for coming to talk to me, Ashido. No prob, the pink girl said cheerily. See you at the dorms. As the other girl walked away, Kurai's face sobered as Ochako approached them with a somber expression on her face. It's All Might, she said in a lowered tone. He wants to talk with you and Deku before dinner. Understood, he nodded. Izuku and I'll fill you two in after we're done. Thanks, Kurai. As Aizawa started to walk away from the celebrating students, he paused next to Vlad King and asked, Think Monoma's learned his lesson? If that didn't teach him, I don't know what will, the other hero muttered. It better have, the Erasure hero said as he started to walk away. Hikari let him off easy. So, what the hell happened out there today? Kurai asked his friend as they sat down across from All Might in his office. I'm gonna assume it has something to do with that dream you had this morning. Probably, Izuku nodded solemnly. When the quirk exploded with Blackwhip, the man who had it when he received One for All appeared in my mind again. Kind of like all the other wielders did in the dream, but this time it was just him. There was a brief pause before Izuku looked downward with a blush as he said, At first, well, he spent quite a while laughing at me because of the way that Ochako stopped Blackwhip, but then he told me a little bit about how the power works. After shifting his gaze to his mentor and allowing some of the extra blood in his cheeks to recede, he asked, Do you know anything about him? He was the fifth wielder, tall and bald. No, I've never heard of him before. All Might said with a slow shake of his head. My master received One for All from a young man with black hair, so I guess that the one you saw was his predecessor. Other than that, I know nothing about him. Did he talk about anything besides how to use the quirk? Yeah, there was one other thing, Izuku answered as he thought back to his conversation with the man. He said that it was time for One for All to evolve into something that none of the previous wielders could have used. Evolve? Kurai asked with a slight frown. He told me that there would be 5 other quirks that would eventually manifest within One for All, so I guess he was talking about that, Izuku mused. The singularity effect described by the people who believe in the quirk doomsday theory have documented some scattered cases of powers suddenly undergoing drastic evolutions in response to a number of varying situations, but nothing that could be called consistent. Even if that kind of thing really is possible, why now? Kurai had to wonder. Why didn't this happen when All Might was using it? Maybe it has something to do with All for One, All Might said grimly, startling both of his students. Think about it. His brother was against him in every way, especially their ideologies. If something were to happen to All for One itself, maybe One for All would respond. After all, the quirk did originally come about because of his meddling with his brother's power, even if the end result was unintentional. If that's the case, what could be happening to All for One that would necessitate a change like this? Kurai muttered with a frown. The guy's in prison, and if he even thinks about using his quirk, he'll be shot in the head by a handful of turrets. I don't know. All Might sighed again. For now, though, get in your PE clothes, boys. I want to have you two do some sparring. We need to see if young Midoriya can keep a handle on this Blackwhip so that it doesn't go out of control again. If it's alright with you, I'm going to call Akururi and try to get his input on this, Kurai told Izuku as they stood up. Maybe he can do some cyber sleuthing and pull up information on the previous wielders of One for All. I'm hesitant to bring your brother into any more than necessary. All Might cautioned with a frown as he also stood up. He's not training to become a hero like you are, and he has enough of problems on his own. And he's so young, too. Akururi's more grown up than most of the adults you talk to on the streets, Kurai snorted. He already knows everything about this situation, and he's smarter than David Shield. He's responsible for my quirk, another powerhouse made by All for One, turning out the way that it has. If we're drawing up blanks on what to do, he's the only other guy I'd trust to help out, aside from Gran Torino and Tsukuchi. I'd appreciate his help, Izuku nodded, surprising his mentor a bit. Seeing this, he said, Kurai is right. We're in totally uncharted territory, and we need all the help we can get. If Akadori is willing, it'll be a huge relief to have him working with us on this. All right, All Might sighed after a moment of quiet. You're the current holder. As you've already demonstrated, you know how to pick which allies to let in on the secret. I'll see if we can arrange a visit when he comes to campus again. Thank you, sir. Following a short sparring session in which Izuku was unable to manifest Blackwhip again, the two boys decided to call it for the night, as they were understandably worn out from the day's activities. As they headed back to the dorms, Izuku finally remembered something that he had been meaning to ask his friend since their match had concluded. You said you unlocked another chakra point? He asked curiously. I think so, Kurai nodded as he reached up and rubbed his throat for a moment. The Vishuddha chakra, if I'm not mistaken. What's the deal with that one? It's the chakra of truth, and it's sealed up by lies. Izuku frowned a little at that. But if it's sealed up by lies, how could you have unlocked it? He inquired. We both have to keep our secrets, and that requires us to tell lies pretty often. Sorry, let me rephrase that, Kurai said with a slight grin. It's blocked up by the lies that we tell ourselves. It's kind of similar to how the Ajna chakra is blocked by disillusionment, and is cleared when we can see things for how they really are. Vishuddha relates more directly to how one views themselves as opposed to how one sees the world. So, you were lying to yourself about something? Izuku guessed. What was it? Kurai hesitated, but after a moment he answered, Ever since I found out the truth about Energon, I've been telling myself that I'm just another monster made by All for One. That I was no better than a Nomu because we all served our purpose to that man. But I know you and the others think the best of me, Kurai said to cut off his friend before he could get started. And your support means all the world to me, man. But that doesn't help me where the Vishuddha is concerned. The Anahata, yes, but Vishuddha is about how I see me. And as long as I saw myself other than what I really am, that chakra would have to remain locked up. So, how do you see yourself now? Izuku asked with a confused look. Kurai smiled at his friend and said, I'm a hero who wants to defeat his enemies, keep people safe however I can, even if it means accepting a power that I had no right to have in the first place. And how did you learn to see yourself that way? Funny enough, Monoma brought it out of me, Kurai chuckled, surprising his friend again. When we fought, after he copied my power, he told me pretty much everything that I viewed as the truth about myself. But I know that he sees nothing in me but the reasons he's crafted in his head to hate me, and that's what led me to realize that it was all a load of bullcrap that I needed to put behind me. Well, I guess I'm happy that you're able to see yourself the way that we see you? Izuku stuttered, still trying to understand his friend's thought process. Thanks for thinking of me the way that you do, Kurai replied as he clapped his friend on the shoulder, careful not to apply too much pressure with his artificial limb as they approached the dorm building. Seriously, it means a lot. Well, I know a thing or two about wanting people to believe in you. He laughed a little abashedly. And I know that Mina will always believe in you no matter what happens. Yeah, his friend said as his face lit up with a smile that could only be described as giddy. Seeing it and remembering Ida's words about how his friends had been acting that morning, Izuku couldn't help but ask, What happened between you two yesterday? Something's different. Kurai paused in place, stopping just short of the steps that led up into their dorms, where they could see both classes were already interacting in a friendly manner. Izuku stopped so that his back was facing the building, his curiosity intensifying when his friend's smile turned from incredibly happy to slightly mischievous. I'm gonna ask that you keep what I'm about to tell you from anyone who isn't a part of Team Lightning Drop, he said when his eyes twinkled. Sure, Izuku said as he stepped closer to his friend without hesitation. If Kurai wanted him to keep a secret, he had long since earned his silence. Mina and I talked last night after the hangout, and Kurai reddened just a little bit as he finally said, Well, Kaminori's little joke actually hit home. We want to get married as soon as we're done with UA. Izuku's eyes went wide, and before he could yell out in surprise, Kurai clamped his left hand on his friend's face to prevent any involuntary outbursts. When he was certain that Izuku could be trusted to control his volume, he lowered his hand and said, Easy does it, pal. But that's huge! He yelped, though not loud enough to be heard by anyone inside. Are you guys sure? We're still in school, and come on, pal. Kurai chuckled as he put his hands in his pockets. After all the crap we've been through, we can hardly be accused of being children who don't consider the consequences of the future. Besides that, she brings out the best in me. Helps me to be the person that I always dreamed I could become. I don't want to do life without her, not ever. I love her. Izuku's jaw worked up and down several times in silence before he managed to ask, Okay, but why tell me? I'd have thought that Ida would be the first person you'd tell. Well, Akudori and I had a conversation a few weeks back that pretty much preluded last night's events, so technically he's the first to know, Kurai explained. But among my friends, yeah, you're the first to know. There was a time when Ida would have been certainly the first person I told, but not anymore. We're different people than we were at the start of the school year, and while I always think of him as a great friend and brother, he's not my best friend anymore. That's you, Izuku. What? Me? Yeah. The cyborg teen nodded, his expression becoming more serious as he did. Maybe our circumstances have something to do with it, but you're the only other person in the world who knows what it's like to be in my shoes. To have this burden put on us by All for One's actions, and you've had my back through it all. You've become my closest confidant other than Mina, and I couldn't have asked for a better friend to trust in. That's why you're the first person I wanted to tell about this. I'm honored, Izuku said as he bowed to his friend, who merely smiled again. Thank you for trusting me, Kurai. I won't tell anyone, not even Ochako, until either you or Mina do. If Mina hasn't already told her, she will by the end of the night. Kurai laughed. If I know her, she's going to be bursting to tell somebody the news. So, do you have a ring? Izuku asked as he straightened up, a nervous grin working its way across his face as he felt the shock beginning to fade in favor of being supremely happy for his friend. Not yet, and I doubt I'll be able to get one until we're out of school, Kurai shrugged. Even if I did, she probably wouldn't be able to wear it on her hand since her acid would destroy it. Well, congratulations, Kurai, Izuku said as he shook hands with his comrade. You definitely deserve to be happy, and I'm glad that Mina can do that for you. I just hope I can make her as happy as she's made me. Kurai chuckled ruefully as they resumed their way up the steps into their home. That's going to be the real trick. You're going to be plus ultra at it, Kurai. I have no doubt about that. Thanks, man. They were greeted by both classes warmly, as well as the 4 students who were now set to transfer to the hero course next year. It was still up in the air whether or not Mitsuho would be making the transfer, but according to her interaction with the teachers, she might be getting another chance at showing her progress through the school's final semester. Even with that hanging over her head and Monoma's absence, it seemed as though everyone was getting along very well. Mina and Ochako quickly welcomed the 2 boys into the building, while Ida offered them both some stew, which they gratefully accepted. The day's training and their extra sparring session had left them both famished, so they moved quickly to a table that was mostly open, sitting down with their girlfriends, as well as Akabane, Sero, Todoroki, and Yang. Gotta say, I won't be underestimating you people from now on, Yang was saying to Akabane, who was flushing red with embarrassment. If you'd been in the hero course from the beginning, you probably would have kicked my... Hey, Hikari, Midoriya! She smiled at the duo as they sat down before saying, I was just telling Akabane about how she did real good during today's training. Took me by surprise. Took all of us by surprise, Izuku admitted, causing the bloody-nosed girl to burn a brighter red than before. Thanks, she mumbled. Hey, come on, Mina said as she ribbed the other girl with her elbow. Where's all that fire from when you were fighting Jiaolong, huh? It's hard for me to be confident outside of a fight, honestly, she admitted. And even that's a challenge. I just kind of get carried away sometimes. Kurai can totally relate to that, right? Ochako asked him, to which he nodded. Yeah, my quirk used to put a strain on the part of my brain that regulates impulses and negative emotions, so if I fought too hard or too long, I'd kind of snap. Like that. But my snapping has nothing to do with my quirk. Whatever the case is, you were awesome, Sero said enthusiastically, causing Akabane to look down with a sheepish smile that caught Mina's attention. I don't think anyone in our class could have taken down Xiaolong that fast. Well, I'm sure Hikari... Nope, Kurai said before Akabane could finish her guess. I had to fight her one-on-one a few days ago. It took me using an ultimate move for a hot minute to beat her. As far as I'm concerned, we broke almost even for time. Do you guys have to talk about this while I'm right here? Yang grumbled. You're making it sound like I can never win. Dude, they're talking about how hard it is to take you down, Mina laughed. It's a compliment. Well, okay, thanks, Yang answered. So what happened with your quirk, Midoriya? Todoroki asked as soon as there was a slight lull in the conversation. Given what you told me at the sports festival, I was assuming you wouldn't have been holding back. Why did you hide that you also have 2 abilities? I didn't know, Izuku answered, thrown off by the sudden change in topic. I mean, I think whatever happened today is another facet of the same quirk, not another power entirely. I didn't even know that I could manifest it like that. It also probably went ham during the match because I had boosted his quirk, Kurai volunteered. The ability itself might have manifested given the circumstances, but I think Energon is what made it go haywire on such a massive scale. He paused before he asked, can you imagine what might have happened during the licensing exam if you'd had even slightly less control over your quirk than you did at the time? I was under the impression you gave me more power than Midoriya today. Yeah, but Deku was a late bloomer, remember? Ochako reminded the others. He hasn't had as long to master his power as we have, so maybe that's another reason why that weird energy appeared out of nowhere. That's a good point, the heterochromic boy said with a nod. Sorry, Midoriya. I shouldn't have doubted your motivations. No, it's okay. Izuku laughed nervously. I mean, I'd be pretty confused in your shoes, too. Seems like you're pretty confused in your own shoes, buddy, Yang commented. You're not wrong about that. Given what we witnessed today, are we sure it's safe to have them participate in the program? All Might asked from his seat. The other members of the freshman year's hero course were seated around a quartet of desks to discuss a rather sudden request from the Hero Safety Commission. What if young Midoriya loses control of his quirk like that out in the field? I think the chances of that happening are fairly low, Nezu said before anyone could answer him. Today he was under a great deal of stress, but where they'll be going, there will be very little chances of them even having to encounter a criminal activity. Even so, Midoriya has a very strong drive to succeed, and no matter what job he's been given, he takes it upon himself to do the very best that he can, Midnight noted. Perhaps the pressure to do well might become too much of a strain, even under optimal circumstances like these. Then what's the point in training him to become a hero at all? Aizawa asked dryly, bringing everyone's attention to him. He's going to face adversity of all kinds when he leaves UA, and we won't be there to watch over him when that happens. We can't shelter him from the world forever, and the same is true in reverse. Our job as his teachers is to train him as best we can so that the events of today don't repeat themselves. Besides, he buried his face in a scarf as he added, his friends know about the power now. They'll look after him, and as we all saw, they have a way to bring him under control if his quirk does act up again. True enough, Nezu nodded. I understand your concerns, but in the changing times, we must train our students to respond to any variation of the unexpected. Then we are to move forward with the Safety Commission's proposal, Ectoplasm rumbled. I don't see that we have much choice, Nezu sighed. I agree that it is less than ideal, but we are hardly in a position to refuse the commission at this time. Vlad King and Aizawa shared a look before Class B's instructor stood up in his seat and said, We'll discuss this with our classes starting next week, when more details concerning their assignments come in. Bakugo's set to take his final exam for the provisional license this Friday, so that'll suit my timing just fine, Aizawa agreed. In the meantime, we'll prepare adjusted semester schedules to submit for your approval. Thank you, gentlemen, the principal said gratefully. In the meantime, I shall also begin my own set of paperwork. Who knew that being heroes would involve so many papers? President Mike chuckled, while everyone else let quiet sighs and groans out as they began to contemplate the mountain of legal documents and rescheduling that lay in their immediate futures. It might have been nice if the commission gave us more than a few weeks heads up, Cementos grumbled as the meeting was dissolved. Back at the dorms, after all the Class B students had gone back to their own building, there was a somewhat quiet celebration occurring in Kurai's room, where hugs were going all around the members of Team Lightning Drop. True to his predictions, Mina couldn't wait to tell Ochako the news, so she had dragged the girl up to her room to tell her about her and Kurai and their conversation the previous evening, to which the other girl had reacted similarly to Izuku when she heard the news. When the pink girl received a text that informed her that Izuku was also privy to the news, she then rushed her friend over to her boyfriend's room so that they could all share in hushed laughter and excitement as they talked about the newest development in their friend's relationship. You sure we can't tell anyone else? Ochako asked the couple after a little while. The last time you guys kept something like this a secret, Ida didn't take it very well. Kurai and Mina exchanged a brief look before he answered, I do want to tell him, and sooner than later I will, but we know he's probably going to be a hard case about it, Mina said bluntly. We just want to have some time to enjoy this before Kurai has to get into another argument about it. I know he'll come around eventually, but I think he's just gotten used to the idea of us dating in the first place, Kurai added with a slightly rueful grin as he said, and that took me nearly getting killed twice to make it happen. If we drop this on his head now, he might just short-circuit. I'm not sure about that, Izuku mused, drawing everyone's attention to him. He saw what you went through just like we did. I'm sure he'd understand if you laid out your reasons. You don't think that he'd tell us we're just having a permanent emotional reaction to a single stressful event? Mina asked with a raised eyebrow. Ochako and Izuku exchanged a look of their own before they both nodded and said, Good point. I'll talk to him soon, Kurai promised again. For now, though, thanks for being here to share this with us, guys. Thanks for wanting to share it with us, Ochako said, her smile returning in force. We're so happy for you guys. Now I've got another reason to become a hero who saves everyone, Izuku said with a smile of his own. I've got to protect this happiness that you guys have found. Ochako gripped his hand tightly, prompting him to add then, we both will. Thanks, you guys.
Even if they doubt me, push me where I stand. I will say it proudly, soon you know who I am. There is something that sleeps within you, listen close. You will soon know. Every door that is open for you, one is closed. Soon you will know what's on the other side.
So you said that was like one of the more feel-good chapters that I've done?
I mean, no, I didn't. Not necessarily feel good. I think more cathartic.
Cathartic. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so we jump right back into the action, and of course, that cliffhanger. Yes, the kiss does work.
I mean, yeah. I don't know. Does that like count as writing myself into a corner with a cheap cop out?
I don't know.
Because like I honestly couldn't think of. There was only two ways that could have gone. It was either she kisses him and that works, or Kurai has to like knock his own teammate out.
Yeah. Honestly, it was a little bit of a cheap comp out, but we all love it. We're eating it up because that's what we all wish had happened in the original.
There's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we finally at this point we finally get the confrontation between Kurai and Monoma, which I enjoy. I enjoy that like Kurai didn't even need to use an ultimate move to beat him. He was just kind of flexing on him.
Yeah.
Like
it's like hit, and then he just shoots himself in the foot.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, he sees like how his quirk used to manifest. So I'll explain a couple of things about how that scene went down, like the technical aspects of it. So, I'm sure someone is gonna be like, wait, if he drew a blank on it, like how did he use that much power? Because someone's gonna bring up the whole thing with Aerie, like he copied her quirk, but he wasn't able to like actually use it because he didn't have enough of an energy buildup. Kurai's quirk.
I thought he was wrong about it being a blank.
No, it wasn't. So the reason that he couldn't use Aerie's quirk is the same reason that while he was able to use One for All, the energy that built up within his body in like the minute that he had it wasn't a whole lot. So he was able to just like barely use it for a second and then it fizzed out.
Okay.
So he's like, oh great, it's a blank. Because he doesn't he doesn't copy a quirk as it is. If that makes any make any sense, like. So like if he copied Fat Gum's quirk, here's an example. He could use any amount of fat that he had in his body at the time to convert it into power. But he wouldn't like touch Fat Gum and then immediately become as fat as he was.
Okay.
Like if he touched Shoji, the multi-arm guy, he would immediately be able to grow more arms and stuff.
Because that's the quirk.
That's a heteromorphic type quirk. Or if he when he copies Bakugo's explosions, that's there's a trigger to it. But neither of those quirks needs an energy buildup. One for All is an accumulation of 9 generations of power at this point, and it continues to grow stronger and stronger by the day.
So it would have been like the original.
It would have been like the original
starter
version.
For All.
The starter,
okay.
yeah, like what All for One's brother would have had at the very beginning.
Got it.
Yeah. So all that to say, so he copied Kurai's quirk, and Kurai mentions he's like, you copied it a couple minutes ago, didn't you? Kurai's quirk produces a massive amount of power at an astounding rate. So his quirk builds energy much faster than One for All does. But it can't pass on from person to person. So it as strong as it gets within Kurai, that's as strong as it'll ever get. But even like I've pointed it out a few times in the story, like Kurai will be really tired, and then you give him a couple minutes, and he's good to go again. Even if he's hurt, even if he's hurt, his energy levels will be restored. That's because his quirk just produces that much energy. So Monoma was able to, rack up a lot of power to use for about a minute there. But of course, once he had spent it, the quirk, that was it. And he would have to wait for the energy to build back up again. And his body is not built to handle energon.
Gotcha.
Was the other thing. That was the other thing. So he copied Energon directly, and I'm sure some people at this point may have forgotten, but Akurui's device that he gave to Kurai to help him, it did not actually change the nature of Energon itself. It altered Kurai's body and the way that his body processed the power.
Got it.
So that kind of goes back to the whole, like, Monoma could take Facum's quirk, but he wouldn't inherit the body that's needed to handle it correctly. Yeah. So he ended up awakening the original version of the power.
Okay.
So that's just a couple of things I thought I might clarify in this little behind the scenes thing.
No, I'm glad you did that because I definitely didn't understand it properly.
Okay.
Because what I thought it was is he just copied the quirk, and when it backfired on him before he felt the results, he just assumed it was a blank because it wasn't working, and so that's what I thought. So I guess I understood it totally wrong. I
mean, maybe I didn't do a very good job of explaining it, but I guess you could take it like he failed to use Energon properly for two reasons. The first being that his body just isn't meant to handle it. And the other is that he didn't understand that he...
Well, by the same token, you could say Kurai's wasn't from the beginning.
Well, yeah, that's true. But as I was about to get into the next point, he didn't understand that he thought that he was copying a power that had been changed so that it wouldn't hurt him. Because, Kurai's been going full tilt this whole time ever since, summer camp.
So he's misunderstanding
He misunderstood the nature of the power.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the nature of what Akurui did.
Yeah. He misunderstood that as well. Yeah. Kurai's body wasn't meant to hold Energon originally either, but because the quirk because he was able to assimilate the quirk over a course of many years, his body eventually somewhat adapted to it. He wasn't able to fully use its power until Akudori was able to help him. But he like we saw, like if he went full power, like it's almost guaranteed death sentence for him.
Yeah. So it's a good thing he didn't.
Yeah. I don't know what stood out to you about the fight portion. Was there anything other than the fight with Monoma?
I just enjoyed it. I mean, I'm trying to think of what else went down. I mean, I know that Mina had a really epic move that happened, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was looking up some of her character profile stuff, and like according to the author Horikoshi, she actually has the best reaction time out of any of the girls, and possibly out of anybody in the other than Bakugo. She has the best reaction time in the class.
Wow.
Yeah, in the author's note, he was like, honestly, she's one of the. He was like, she's not the most powerful, but she's like one of the most skilled people, and it's kind of a shame that the story hasn't allowed her to really stand out as much as I would like for her to be able to.
Okay.
So I thought, with that in mind, I was like, all right, let's have her show off a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you know me, I generally don't focus too much on the fights, but I did enjoy. I mean, anybody enjoys Monoma getting a little suffering. And then, of course, there's that moment of Kurai thinking, I could just stick him in the cage with everybody else, but I know he needs serious medical attention. I'm gonna make sure that he gets help. And so, of course, that's...
I feel like it's only human to want... I don't know that I could exactly call it... I don't know that I could exactly call it petty revenge, because this is a little more serious than that, but it's like... Yeah, there's that temptation to let the other guy...
It's just his inaction. He's not necessarily doing anything to hurt him, but his inaction could potentially hurt him.
Yeah.
And that would be an easy temptation. But, of course, he's discovering the kind of person and hero he wants to be here. And so, of course, we want him to be a hero. Yeah.
And he wants to be a hero.
And so that's the decision he makes.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah, what was I gonna say? The other thing is that Kurai has unlocked the 6th chakra at this point.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The 6th chakra point. Yeah, and I'm gonna be. I wonder how people are gonna react to being ironically, one of the people that hates him the most that helped him unlock the power.
Yes, you know, and
that for me was the real catharsis.
In a way, I was just like, man, I wish I could be like that. Like, I want to stand in front of someone who makes me feel bad and be able to be like, you know what? Yeah, these are all lies I've told myself. And now that I see them coming from you, I realize it's a bunch of baloney, you know? And I that's really cool. And I think just personally, I'm like, man, I want to reach that point. That sounds really nice to be. That sounds like a good headspace to be in, personally. Yeah, I had forgotten about that. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, like that to me, like that for me was the highlight of this arc.
I had forgotten
of Class A versus Class B. Like, to me, like this was the highlight. This was what I was trying to build toward.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I absolutely love the Dad Zawa moments here, because of course he has to lecture them, and of course he has to be big bad mean teacher, but of course behind closed doors he's just cheering them on in his own way. And I one of the many reasons he's one of my favorite characters in the show.
Yeah, I enjoyed that like, it's like a 3-sentence conversation between him and Vlad King, where he's just like, do you think that did it? Well, I better hope so.
And like, everyone's like, wow, we expected the consequences to be worse for us acting like total lunatics, but
we're not going to say that out loud.
We're not going to question it, yeah. That collateral damage paper, you know.
Yep.
So.
Yep. That was fun.
And then, you know, that kind of leads into our fun little get together.
Yeah,
everybody.
Yeah. They invite the applicant students in. Someone, I think it was like, if it wasn't the last video, it was the one before. Someone was like, well, wait, what about that one girl? Is she gonna get into the hero course? So she hasn't lost her chance per se, but she's gonna have to keep working at trying to get in.
Gotcha.
So maybe we'll see her again.
But it's nice to see them include her.
And the others.
And just be the awesome individuals they are. And so it's pretty fun. But then we also have another conversation behind closed doors among the teachers.
Yeah. Before that, we have the bit where All Might and Kurai are trying to figure out, like, okay, what the heck's going on with One for All? It's like, what did you do? It's like, I don't know, what did you do?
Yeah, so we clear up. Okay, obviously we
have Lariat laughing at Deku in the background.
Yeah, which is pretty funny. But, I mean, and we know it happens in the original, and of course it's triggered by Deku's emotions. It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with Kurai. But of course, in this situation, they would have to question it, because it's like, okay, man, like, what is up?
Well, now the theory is like, well, something has to be going on with All for One as well, and they're trying to. They're like, what? Because like, you know, they don't understand what's actually happening to All for One at the moment, but All Might's kind of on the right track. Yeah. But then we get to the conversation between the teachers.
Yes, which makes sense, because it's like, okay, this kid's quirk is out of control. What's going on here?
Yeah. No, I was talking about the bit where they're talking about the demands from the Heroes Public Safety Commission.
Oh yeah. And so I mean,
like,
are we...
that kind of leads it? Well, that kind of leads into that one. Like, they start off, they're like, well, are we going to be okay to send him away? Because, you know, like, what if this happens out there? And they're kind of like, well, you know, he kind of has a safety net with his friends. You know, they know to look out for it now. So if this happens again, they kind of have a way to contain it.
Yep. So congratulations, we are officially moving into our next movie.
Yeah, Heroes Rising. It's still my favorite movie of the bunch.
And I think we've talked about this before, but isn't the ending of that movie the original ending that the author
that was supposed to be the original? Yeah. So the original ending for My Hero Academia was supposed to be Deku and Bakugo were gonna fight. We're gonna fight Tomura Shigaraki, and toward the end of the battle, Deku would give One for All to Bakugo, and he would go on to become the world's greatest hero, like post-career kind of thing.
Yeah,
like everyone would recognize the sacrifice and what he did, and people, and he would become recognized as the world's greatest hero.
But he seems to have decided he's come up with a better ending. He seems to
have decided he's come up with a better ending, which also gave him kind of the leeway of, like, you know, now Deku can't pass, because he came up with that idea before he decided that adding One for All to somebody who already has a quirk, that kills them. Like, it does it slowly.
But it can really...
But he hadn't come up with that idea. He hadn't come up with that idea when he had the idea of Deku and Bakugo being the ones to take down Shigaraki.
Yeah.
But so he explored a new narrative path, and
And
I have to respect him for that, because I feel like that would have been a great ending to the series. So I'm very interested to see what he did that he thinks is better, because I believe him when he says it's better.
I know I've heard a lot of people say that it was a comp out, that the quirk rejected Bakugo at the end. But for me, it's like the quirk kind of has its own sentience almost, because it carries on.
It has a collective will of the
the previous holders.
Yeah.
So I can absolutely, I mean, the way that the story has been framed, it makes plenty of sense to me that the quirk can choose to reject a holder and go back to the previous user.
The other reason that the consciousness would reject Bakugo is they don't want to kill him.
Yeah.
Because if One for All stayed in Bakugo, it'd kill him.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, it wouldn't be immediately, but he would start aging to death really quickly.
For his body to take.
Yeah.
So that
it was a great cinematic experience, though. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah, that movie was awesome. But yeah, for me, I'm excited. So I'm hoping. I don't know if there's anything else in the chapter we want to cover, because I mean we have this nice little segue into our next arc.
Yeah. So the next couple of chapters are actually going to be. They're actually gonna be more like it's not an original arc per se. It's kind of it's gonna be kind of a segue into the movie arc.
All right.
Like some
transitional
stuff. Yeah. Like, there's not gonna be any big fights or anything.
Give you guys a little fluff so you can recover
a little
from
bit.
Your roller coaster.
I mean, yeah. Before
we get back into the intensity that is the story.
Yeah. It's gonna be. See, yeah, I think it's good. Next chapter actually we'll find out what the Vishuddha chakra does when Kurai applies it.
Sick.
So there's a little bit of action that you guys can look forward to there. But we have the I did the conversation between the teachers because I didn't want the movie arc to just pop up in there.
Yeah.
Kind of like
it does in the series.
A little bit. Yeah. I wish they would have given a little bit more background to like when this took place exactly. I figured it out doing some research. Like, I know when it takes place in the original canon, and like this is pretty much it. It takes place after the Class A versus Class B, but before the work study under Endeavor and all that.
Got it.
So I figured this was a good place to slip that in.
Gotcha.
And I didn't want to. Yeah, I decided I wanted to kind of coast into the movie arc, like, because I tried to do that with the last movie, because like with the Eye Island movie, yeah, because like I mentioned them, like, oh yeah, I've got these tickets to Eye Island, like a couple of chapters before we went into those into that arc.
Didn't pop up, because I appreciate that these movies work with the canon.
Yeah, I really like that.
Because you know me, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I generally do not enjoy anime movies. I really don't. Especially when they take part in an anime and are non-canon.
I like looking at them as little what-ifs.
I get frustrated. Like, now with Naruto, I love the series so much that I enjoy the Naruto ones, but generally speaking...
Well, also Naruto the Last is canon.
Yeah. So, not all of them are non-canon.
Yeah.
But, like, with Full Metal Alchemist, for example, the fairy tale movies drive me insane. I can't. I'm sorry. I just really can't. They're so annoying. I don't feel like they're well written, personally. I know you like them.
I enjoy them.
I don't. So, because I just want to sit there and punch everyone in the face the whole time. I'm like, why? What? Because, I think normally in anime, the reason you're okay with the over dramatic tears and yelling is because you've had such a long build up and you've had so much character development. When you try to cram all of that character development into a into a film, the over dramatic melodrama that plays out between the characters makes zero sense.
There's not enough context to justify it.
Lucy, you just met this girl. Why do you care so much? Shut up, Lucy. Like, she doesn't even like you. Calm down. Like, that's me personally.
Okay.
I think that's the reason that anime movies just generally don't. And there's a few exceptions, like some of the standalones I adore. A lot of the purists are gonna hate on me for this because I genuinely I think Hayao Miyazaki movies are okay. And I'm sure people would absolutely lose their minds.
I can think of a couple. I can think of a couple of people who are going to take exception.
Yes.
They're going to take exception to that.
Absolutely. I think the artwork is beautiful. I think the music is beautiful. And they're thought provoking to a certain extent, but it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's just because I'm not into movies a whole lot anymore. But anyway, sorry, that's a total tangent. But
tangents are the spice of life.
I love the movies in this series.
Yeah.
And
I love
just because they fit into the story perfectly.
I love Maxie Whitehead as little Katsuma, the voice actor for the younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
She's so good at it's so funny because she's so good at voicing the younger brother characters.
Okay, you have to see our dog. She's sleeping. She's doing stuff in her sleep.
Well, I don't have the camera set up.
Oh, dang it. Okay, well, anyway, I think that's about it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Sorry we're late. I literally fell asleep in my chair while we were recording the responses to reviews. So we had to postpone this part of the recording until another day. So that being said, thanks for being patient with us.
Yep. Thank you for watching.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you for the next one. Yeah, the next one's chapter 70, I think.
Dang, yeah. I think so.
Man. Oh man. This is such a long story. I love it. I'm so proud of myself for sticking with it this long this time.
I'm impressed with you guys for sticking with it this long.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool story, but I'm a little biased because I'm married to him. So I'm glad to see that other people enjoy it as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But
for sure. Yeah.
I gotta pee. We gotta go.
All right. Well, everybody, I hope you have a plus ultra couple of weeks, and we'll see you for the next one.